first time I've not had sugar for like
And you
3
get break
months.
out.
Boom.
Yeah.
Okay. One time.
We good?
We're good.
How did I start last time? I just said I'm Phillip Di Bella, Managing
I'm gonna
Director
take
of
this off.
Coffee Comment. Because the
we're
intro
gonna
will
have
already
the
be there.
intro, so you go, hi, welcome to today's episode, and we're getting
Straight into it? Okay,
yeah.
beautiful. Yeah, because you'll do all the rest of them in the last one, because it's only our second one. That's right.
Make
I
sure
know,
you...
we'll go with the flow.
Well, let's go on.
You'll be fine. It's conversation anyway.
Yeah.
We good?
Yeah.
Hi and welcome to another episode of Been There and Done That. And today I have the wonderful Kelly Maniatis with me, who's an organisational psychologist who has been working with us for many, many years. Kelly, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm really excited to be here. This is the first time I'm doing something like this with you, Phil.
Oh, well, you know, we've done it plenty of times without microphones, so microphones in front of us won't be different. But today we're going to talk about mindset matters and how to become mentally stronger. It's going to be tailored specifically for cafe owners who have been facing challenges, obviously, of increased expenses, staff shortages, long hours, and we're finding that people are just mentally worn out. And so I thought we'll get one of the best in the business, Kelly, to talk about mindset matters and how to become mentally stronger. So, Kelly, first question for you. As a cafe owner who faced significant challenges like COVID and increased expenses and staff shortages, long hours and all the rest of it, how important is it to develop a resilient mindset in overcoming these obstacles?
Absolutely. It is a number one aspect of being a cafe owner now and also just a leader generally, is that leaders are facing and cafe owners are facing multiple crises at the one time. So you could easily break under those conditions. And I think resilient mindset in itself means that you're able to manage what's coming, not take it personally, take a step back, even breathing for a moment, and then looking at some positive steps to go forward and problem solve. So the resiliency is not only that bounce back, but it's the ability to have the mindset to not narrow in your thinking, but open up your thinking to go, how can I handle this better? How can I make sure that I'm not going to be just succumb to the waves of obstacles that are coming towards me, that I can just stand firm and realise what is it that I can do.
Yeah, and it sounds cliche, doesn't it, the whole resilient, but one of the ways to look at that is the closed mindset or the fixed mindset versus the growth mindset, and unpack that for us, you know, because there's a lot of work around it. Carol Dweck obviously is leading the way and has done for many years. So, for a cafe owner in simple terms, not that cafe owners are simple by any means, but in simple terms, how do you unpack that, the difference between a closed mindset or a fixed mindset and someone with an open growth mindset?
Absolutely. So, closed mindset, I guess your first position is no, stand still, status quo. It's always been like this. A growth mindset is an open mindset to say, what can I learn from this? How can I get something out of this? It's looking for the opportunities. Underlying that is growth mindset is looking at the opportunity. Closed mindset is looking at, it's kind of fear-based. It's a fear-based avoidant thinking. And so, in all honesty, when you have a closed mindset, you're actually not only affecting your mind, but you're affecting your body. So what we see is research has shown that closed mindset affecting your negative, or it's creating a negative space, and then that has an impact on your body. If I could share personally, my husband, he's got fruit shop, deli, commercial kitchen. So we're talking in the same sort of space. This is, you're actually getting an insight also into the dining room table conversations.
Yeah, I'm sure he won't mind.
No, between, the poor guy's got a wife as a psychologist, but this is, and we talk about, what is the impact? And he gives me stories about old-timer fruitos, stopping work, retiring, and then having a heart attack the next day, almost. And that's what we're kind of facing here is if we, and it's quite serious, if you don't understand the power of a growth mindset, of being open and looking at the learning experiences, not only does it affect your business, but it also affects you personally. And I think that's really just putting it out there.
No, it's good. It's good. And thank you for sharing that because, in the spirit of the topic, mindset matters. And what we want out of this, what comes out of the funnel after this podcast is people that say, hey, mindset does matter and how can I become mentally stronger? So, thank you for sharing because as cafe owners, they fall into, common mindset traps.
Yeah.
especially in challenging times. And I talk about there's two types of people that you can link back to fixed mindset and growth mindset. And those that play the victim and go, poor me, look how shit everything is, or those that just get on their bike and pedal. How can they give them some tips? Especially that you come from experience with family businesses and all the rest of it in hospitality. What are some tips that people can really just adhere to every day to overcome that mindset trap?
Yeah, first off, cue into your own thinking patterns. So it's a simple thing. When you wake up in the morning, what are the first things that you're saying to yourself? Are those things positively influencing your day, or are you thinking about the past and how it's bringing it into your future? Are you waking up concerned, worried, disappointed, frustrated, or are you waking up with intention, with hope, with an idea of what you want out of that day? And then at the end of the day, what are you thinking? Are you being grateful for what happened? Or are you over-worrying? If you're in that space of worry, you're just going to create more thought patterns of worry and concern, and that creates more issues where you're not actually seeing the opportunities, but you're just fixed on the problem, not solution-orientated. So that's one tip or trick, is to start cueing into what's that recording tape that's in the back of your mind. If it's not helpful, dial it down. If it is helpful, dial it up. So that's the first piece around it. Then recognising that things that are happening aren't happening to you. It is a situation. It's a task. It's an occurrence. It's almost, I tell people to look at the problem away from you, not in you. So,
good tip.
Focus away. And that way, I liken it to the dining room table with my husband and I. You're putting it on the table. You're not personalising. Let's say we've got an issue. What's happening in front of us? That approach just helps you sort of see the issue a little bit differently.
Yeah, play the issue, not the person, right?
Oh, yeah, that's a great way of articulating what I've just said in like 2 seconds.
That's a marker.
But that's it. It's that whole looking at that problem. I think the number one area that helps with resilient mindset is the relationships that you have with people.
Yeah, and that's a big one, isn't it? The connection, the emotion.
Absolutely.
Which is a great. You mentioned it and touched on it before, which we'll come back to it and expand on what you just said. That if you don't get your mindset right, it affects you emotionally and then physically. So let's unpack that. So if you don't have a good mindset, the emotion behind it, what are the problems and the obstacles there that people need to be aware of? Yeah.
So are you talking about the physical symptoms that happen?
Correct. From the emotions then breed into the physical symptoms.
One of the great things about humans is that emotions are contagious. One of the worst things about humans is emotions are contagious. So if we're breeding negativity, we are attracting negativity, and that negativity impacts us from a physical point of view. So we know, research has shown that negative thinking impacts the nervous systems. When you have certain nervous systems that are related to that anxiety and that fear, that creates a whole cascade of issues. We typically see heart problems. We typically see diabetes. A lot of the autoimmune system issues come through, which is so tragic because cafe owners, you work long hours, intense hours.
Yeah.
You need to be in the right mind and body to be able to deal with that. Not only are you just the delivery, you're now dealing with government expectations onto you, you're dealing with employee expectations. There's been a shift in that market of what the quickness of having to deal with these issues. You saw it in COVID. All of a sudden, one day we're doing this, the next day we're doing that.
Yeah.
So it is pretty important that you are aware of that mindset, how it impacts on your body and your ability to just do your work effectively.
Yeah, and something to bring awareness to, because a lot of people think, oh no, I'm mentally tough and I'm mentally strong, and and what's your message to those that are that would classify themselves mentally strong? That
is one of the things that I specialise in the leadership space, and leaders will tell me, I'm not stressed. I said, but your body is. Right? Your body is stressed. So regardless, your body can't fake it.
Yeah.
So it is advantageous to have a resilient mindset because it does create a cascade for your body, but also recognising you're putting yourself into situations that are stressful, your body will react to that.
Yeah.
So being attuned to that. And that's why I know you're a big believer in it, meditation, calming, being present in the moment. These are known scientific approaches and techniques that help the body and the brain to centre yourself, to relax, to respond to issues, which are resilient mindsets.
Yeah, and in the spirit of the whole podcast where we talk about been there and done that,
Yes.
I've certainly been there, as you know. I never used to meditate. I never used to take time out. I never used to use diffusers.
Now.
But I'm a believer because I went through that. I went through that. I'm mentally tough. Yet, my body went into anxious mode. I'd get on a plane, I'd slow down, and my body go, we're not slowing down, we're going. And, the heartbeat's rising and the adrenaline kicks in. And at first you think you're having a heart attack and then you realise it's just a panic attack. Yeah. But you've got to deal with it. So, again, I've been there and done that. And, of course, you're one of the major keys to help me through that. Tell me, this is the common thing, right?
Yep.
And it's not just in the cafe industry, but we're talking, and this is directed at cafe owners, but lack of time. A lot of cafe owners are working 12 to 14-hour days. Mm-hmm. They're on their feet. Mm-hmm. They have to work in their business because of the rising cost of expenses. Yep. Consumers don't want to pay more or they want more for less.
Yep.
It's coming at them left, right and centre, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody that says, I'm too busy. Mm-hmm. I know the importance of you've got to take that 5 minutes or that 10 minutes.
Yes.
Talk us through that from an expert's point of view.
Yep.
You're building a template for somebody. What does that look like?
First thing is to challenge your own mindset about playing the game of time, because you're going to lose. Time is finite. There's a beginning and there's an end, and it will always be there. You don't have enough time. So don't play in that game. Don't play in the time game. Play in the game of productivity. Play in the game of effectiveness. Play in the game of being right here, right now. And what I'm seeing is where I see people losing out on time is that they're trying to put so much in that, and they're thinking that they're multitasking. But in effect, they've lost focus. They're doing less in that time. They're not able to close out. So I see a lot of people that have, on your computer screen, you've got a number of tabs open. Yeah. I see people with a lot of tabs open, nothing getting done, nothing getting finalised. Mm-hmm. I've got too much. You are playing in the time game, and it's not on a human side. Yeah,
they're going too wide and not deep enough.
Absolutely.
And that's something I learnt, and again, through one of your techniques was don't go as wide, but go deeper. So
Single
go narrow
focus.
and deep rather than wide and shallow.
Yep.
And one of the tips there that I share this with cafe owners now is because people's mindset was, well, I pay a fixed amount of lease and there's 24 hours in a day and I'm going to maximise my lease and open as much as possible. However, a lot of the analysis we've done is that if you're opening 8 hours a day but making money only for 5 hours, then you're burning cash for 3 hours. Absolutely. Close the 3 hours. Yep. There's a lot of cafes now that only operate from 6 in the morning till 12 at lunchtime, or from 7 till 2, and they've got more time for themselves. But
they're not playing the time game.
Correct.
So that analysis where I remember talking to a restaurant owner. He started off his first restaurant, and he sat down at we wanted to congratulate him, so we went to his new restaurant. We sat down and had lunch. We had a really great time with, my kids were there. He sat down at the end and we were talking, and he said, look, I've done the analysis, just using your words, done the analysis, and I've got to open 10 of these restaurants. And Peter and I just sort of had one of those looks that perhaps only husband and wives can get, but no one else could. We're like, wow, okay. And of course you sort of look into yourself going, oh, geez, that's amazing. I wish I could do that. But in my head, and husband and I are talking, just thinking, how does that work? And, we came to the conclusion, he's playing in the game of time. Yeah. He's going to lose. He did not succeed. Yeah. This guy, unfortunately, all good intentions, but he's doing an analysis.
Yeah, too wide and not deep enough.
Yeah, just focus on the effectiveness, and you can do a lot. And build the foundation, right? Build the foundation. That works for the human spirit, because if you've got too many tabs open, you've got splintered thinking. When you've got splintered thinking, it's fragmented. You are not going to make really good decisions. Research has shown clear, focused vision, really purposeful building blocks, get the foundation right. The human spirit lifts. You're like, yes, I've nailed that. Then you move to the next one, the next one, the next one. And that mentality, you're not playing in the game of time, are you? You're playing in the game of focus. You're playing in the game of opportunity and seeing things as they come, right?
Yeah. This is definitely a time of less is more. The busier we get, the more that's thrown at us, the more we've got to take away, cut out. We have to cut it out and we need to focus and raise a sharp focus, right? Let's talk more about emotions because it's something that obviously we're all emotive.
Yep.
And one of my things, as you know, for 22 years in business, I keep talking about, and I'm not perfect at it by any means, is try and keep the emotions, ego, out of your mindset.
Yeah.
Talk me through that because you've dealt with a lot of amazing leaders and a lot of could be amazing leaders.
Yep.
And you've dealt with a lot of emotions and egos. So for the cafe owner listening that says, we serve the best coffee and we're the best restaurant, we got the best menu, why are we not busy? Talk us through emotions and ego.
Yeah. One part of it is that let's put the good news about emotions. Emotions are fantastic because it creates an emotional engagement. And that's great for cafe owners to really connect with their customers and connect with their employees and emotionally connect. That means that where that comes from is that I trust you, you trust me. That's a fantastic space, and that's what we want emotions to be utilised by, where people feel like through conversation, you're not scary, I'm not fearful of you, I care for you, I want to support you. That's a great space. I want that type of emotion. Where you're talking about ego, it's where the primitive part of the brain is overriding all our other aspects of the brain. Again, it's fear-based too, and that part of emotion doesn't serve us well in the modern world. It served us well in the hunter and gatherer days when we saw lions and tigers and bears, and we had to have that ego of like, I can kill this thing, I can turn this around. In the environment that we're living in, there's no lions and tigers and bears, but government is a lion. Yeah. Regulations are bear.
That's being kind. But,
I am trying to. And sometimes our staff, love them to bits, can be, lions and tigers and bears. So what happens is our brain doesn't realise that this isn't really a lion or tiger or bear, but we will emotionally react as if we're about to either fight this thing or the classic thing, run away and go under the dunas. Yeah. That's when emotion is not working for us, it's working against us. And so we do need to know strategies of dialing down that emotional play. And that's what I think right at the beginning I said, wake up in the morning and think about your intention. And if that intention is coming from a good place, your emotional centre starts to be regulated. You start to calm down and actually see things for what it really is rather than have an emotional reaction to something.
Yeah, one of my tips is 5 minutes meditation in the morning and 5 minute meditation at night. In the morning, it's that mental preparedness, and you can YouTube it. Dr. Joe Dispenza's a great one. You've got Calm apps, you've got everything. But 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes at night. In the morning, it's preparing for the day. At night, it's doing a close off, and I find I sleep a lot better and the rest of it. Now, emotions and egos. It was a loaded question because for this reason, I've seen a lot of cafe and restaurant owners. And one of the things I harp on about, and we talk about it in 17 Rules of Game Changer Thinking with Alan Bonsall, is the rule of outside in. Yeah. The cafe and restaurant owners that are building menus for their own ego and their own emotion, right, versus building a menu on what the consumer wants to buy. Yeah. And for the listeners, this is what I mean. The number one selling item right now on the cafe's menu is something like a ham and cheese croissant. Yeah. Now, it's not sexy, it's not fun, you can spin it, you can turn it, you can do whatever. It's a ham and cheese croissant. But it is the number one selling item because it's seen as a meal, it's under $10.
Yeah. It's yummy.
It's yummy. Whereas the cafe owner that says, I'm not serving, a ham, or I'm not serving, and we had that situation with a client not long ago. I'm Jewish, we don't eat ham or pork, so I'm not putting that on my menu. But you're not building a menu for you, you're building it for the customer. And that's really something I want to delve into the cafe owners based on what Kelly has said about your ego and your emotion. Yes. How does it play into actual, into your cafe? It's things like that. Are you designing your menu from the outside in? Yeah. Are you building your customer service from the outside in? Yeah. Get rid of that ego and emotion, get rid of the mindset of ego and emotion, because it is then, as we talk about, mindset matters. So, Kelly, let's change speeds a bit.
Yep.
Staff shortages. Everyone's going through it, right? Yep. And what we've identified, we've done a whole body of work, not just the cafe industry, the whole industry, in any industry, and the whole world is going through this, is staff shortages. In particular, in retention, which is something most people haven't focused on, and attraction. Everyone's been talking, how do I attract staff? How do I attract staff? And one of the things that I've been talking a lot about when I'm doing the speaking circuit or workshops is what's your strategy around retention. So I want to get a professional's point of view on that. Again, you've worked with many leaders, you're still doing great businesses like Audi and all the rest of it. Talk us through the mindset of staff, and in particular, how to some tips from your perspective on retaining your staff and then attracting staff.
Retention is, and it always has been, a preferred method. You'd rather keep your existing rather than managing a situation where you have to constantly get new people in. The research shows that if you retain your people, you are likely to have a 2 to 3 times bottom line productivity retention there, because if you are constantly burning and churning, it costs, and I don't know the exact stats for cafe owners, but let's just look at broadly, it costs 2 to 3 times a person's salary.
Jeez.
When you get rid of people all the time or people are going. So it's a big situation there. So we do know that retention is a preferred strategy. What the issue is people are aware of what's out there, so they will jump, and they're that situation. I call it a regrettable loss. We've got to try and manage those regrettable losses where it's an individual that actually is quite critical to the business. And if you talk about ego, we haven't been able to overcome some of the barriers in our own mind as to why we want to keep this person or not. You have to think this through, that if that person leaves, it could cost you 2 to 3 times the cost of their salary because of all the hidden costs, training costs, recruitment costs, downtime costs. Like it is, so you're better off keeping the individual if they're quite key to your business than losing them. Total different story about non-regrettable loss where they're just not performing. Move them on. But those that are key, you need to really look at a strategy around that. But you got to remember, it's not about just throwing money at people.
Correct.
It's about the engagement of that person, about their lifestyle, their own career pathways, and that conversations that you're having with that individual. So it's not just necessarily throwing money, because research does show if you throw money at people, only last 2 salary packets.
Yeah, good point.
So,
and something for listeners to really hone in on. It's not just about the dollars.
Yep.
It's lifestyle. I remember working with with one of the restaurants here in Brisbane, and they used to open 6 days a week, and 5 was lunch and dinner, and they used to have to run 2 lots of staff. Anyway, long story short, the strategy we worked together was to change it, and it was to open 4 days a week, lunch and dinner, and it meant that you had the same staff, the same shifts. They were happy to work a little bit longer because they had 3 days off in a row in hospitality, which is unheard of.
Absolutely.
And a simple strategy
change. And there
change.
you go. It's an attraction strategy now.
Correct.
So by doing something as a retention, you've now inadvertently created an attraction strategy, which is, hang on, you're getting a name out there, you can get 3 days a week off. That's a great
it is. And
process.
something for owners to take, like use that the whole psychology that Kelly's talking about and then put into practice. There's another group on the Gold Coast, and I don't mention brands for a reason, but, there's a group that's got 5 cafes, and they open at 6 in the morning and they close at 12 lunchtime. And they've got the same team at every location. They've got a small footprint, so rents are smaller. They've only got 2 to 3 staff. They incentivise the staff when they give them a percentage of the coffee sales over a certain number of cups, and you start to see that they've got a great strategy, great formula, right? Their mindset is in the right place. Bringing it back to the owner of the cafe has got to be in the mindset that, to share and have people. And this is my bottom line to it, and my point is, I've always said you want people good enough to own their own business, but you've got to give them a reason not to. And unfortunately, a lot of the mindset of cafe owners and restaurant owners is, I'm not giving away anything.
Competitive.
Correct. They're very competitive, very ego and emotion. So, that's what we really wanted to unpack there, because everyone's going through staff shortages, and what are we doing to, retain the good people that we've got? And if you've got bad people, move them quickly, right?
That story has not changed, that one.
Fantastic. So let's talk about innovation, right?
Yep.
Because I hate the word innovation. Innovation has to occur for a purpose.
Yep.
So innovation has to be linked to a purpose. You innovate because there's a problem that you need to solve, or there's something you need to do better. So let's talk about how can cafe owners, adapt that into the mindset. So it's just to constantly say, I need to innovate. evolution is probably a better word than innovate.
Yeah.
How can cafe owners, evolve their strategies, especially when consumer mindset is changing?
Absolutely.
Because I want to start tapping into the consumer mindset a bit. So how can cafe owners be on that front foot? Because the consumer's mindset is changing.
Yeah. For me, I agree. So innovation is one of those words that gets touted about, and it's kind of like conjuring up bean bags and wearing black turtleneck shirts and jeans and sneakers, kind of Googleizing or to glamorise innovation. What we're talking about here is, how do I stay relevant? That's the thing that we're looking at. So having that in your mindset, actually asking that question, how am I going to stay relevant? How is it that my customers are going to be constantly coming to my cafe? That questioning creates that learning mindset, that open mindset, because to stay relevant, you can't only think about yourself. You've actually got to open your eyes and see the world around you. So classic thing is asking questions.
Yeah.
That's what
asking your consumer the question, right?
Yeah, that's what my late father used to do really well. So we had ice cream shops, we'd have hotels, and I used to watch Dad, and I kind of used to get embarrassed when you're like 14 years old, because he would always ask questions. Yeah. And I go, Dad, shut up. But he would constantly be asking questions of the customer in a very, a very engaging way. Yeah. It wasn't like a police, spotlight kind of situation, but he'd always ask, how'd you find that? What could we do? He would constantly be asking, so important. And he would be tweaking along, and it was about staying relevant.
He's building a consumer-led organisation.
Yeah, and it was staying relevant all the time. Yep. So that's what I want you to think about as cafe owners. Don't think about the innovation, because sometimes you get lost in maybe looking at new products that seem really cool, because there's great salespeople that come in. I know we see it at the shop. Come in, we can do anything. Oh, that'll solve my problem. That is a thing. Yeah. It is not the actual person that you're trying to attract. So have a think about staying relevant in your mindset, and that will create a cascade of ideas, I hope.
Yeah, no, well said. It is about constant evolution. And again, to get in that right mindset of, I need to evolve my business. Yeah. How do I know when to evolve? What should I evolve? You said it very simply. Ask the customer.
Absolutely.
Ask your customer. How much conversation are we having? I'm sick of seeing, you walk into a coffee shop and the barista's head's down behind the machine. They're not engaging with people. My son made a great example the other day when we went to McDonald's, and he said we touched three different people served us, the person over the radio, the person for the money, person gave you the bag, and not one of them said please or thank you. Crazy, and that's McDonald's losing their emotional engagement, which means it's a scary world, because they were a great trainer of obviously staff. But people really underestimate that emotional engagement, and they really underestimate to be in the mindset of service. So let's touch on that. The mindset of service, right? As I said, the customer is expecting more for less. I don't believe the customer wants free. The customer knows that things cost money. The customer's happy to pay more. They know that everything's gone up, but they do want value.
Yes.
So let's talk about the mindset of the customer, which will hopefully help our cafe and restaurant listeners. What are some tips, tricks? What are some small things, especially that you've got a hospitality background from your parents, and obviously in your husband's business that you obviously work in as well. What are some, strategies, mindset strategies that people can use to make sure that they are delving into the mindset of the consumer?
You know what the good news is? Cafe owners are also customers.
Yes, correct.
So you think about your suppliers. Yeah. What do you like about them? You think about the restaurants that you go to, or the dealerships for your cars that you go, your mechanics. I don't know anything. You know what you want.
Correct.
So what's great about, that question about staying relevant, ask your customer, then you have to say to yourself, do I want that customer?
Yes,
right?
Very true.
Is that customer something that it's easy to have an interaction with? Because you want more of those and less of the ones that you're unable to service, because that's what we've got to be, speaking out too. It's actually okay to have an understanding of where your customer base is, and expanding that. You're adding value to that group. And then when you add value to that group, it starts to expand. So to me, it's looking at, going back into that mindset. Take your hat off as a cafe owner, put your hat on as a customer, and ask your questions about what is it that you're looking for, because it's not that far removed. I think sometimes people get a bit lost with it. What does the customer want? It's like this mystic. Guess what? You're a customer.
Yeah,
too.
well said. Well said. And that's true. It's a great way to look at it. Take the owner's hat off and put yourself in the customer.
Can we share? We're great family friends, and we'll go to places. Could be movies. Even what you just said about your son. How many times have you gone into a place and you've thought of it like a customer, not as a business owner?
Yeah.
You've thought of it as a customer. That's not right. That's not
correct.
Cafe owners have this skill set. You know how to run a business.
Yeah.
So apply it in other situations and then put it back onto you and go, if I were to analyse my business, if I were to walk in as a customer.
Yeah.
Don't you love those shows, The Undercover Boss?
Yes, love it.
Just do that.
Back in Di Bella days, they approached me to be on Undercover Boss, and I said, won't work because all my 140 staff across Australia know me, otherwise there's a big problem. So there's no undercover here. But it's so true, look, because that's why I train my staff. Is I say to them, you think like a customer, what's the problem here? What are you seeing right now? The chair's not around the table, tables aren't clean, you're not smiling, all this sort of stuff. And it's a really simple ideology, but it's a powerful ideology.
Absolutely.
Think like a customer and get your team to think like a customer, because not only as cafe owners, but we can train our teams to do the same thing. And that's one of the things that you hone in on is you're training a lot leaders, but you're also working with their teams on how they can deliver service excellence. Last question, Kelly. Tell us, mindset exercises, practices. I talked about the 5-minute meditation in the morning, the 5-minute meditation at night. What are some other practices, even exercises? Like when I did, you've done my emotional intelligence testing. To me, that's important to know where I sit, knowing that emotional intelligence changes. So you've just recently done my next one, and my empathy evolved, and I'm happy for you to talk through it. But, what are some of the exercises and tools out there for cafe owners that don't take a whole heap of time, but they're very powerful in you getting to know yourself better?
Absolutely. So the first one that you've mentioned is that self-assessment. So it'd be great for people to get to know themselves. What are their strengths? What are their development areas? There's, big tools that you can use, but there's ones that you can find online that are relatively cheap, where you're looking at some personality tooling. So something to understand what's my thinking style, what's my influencing and engaging style, how do I like to deliver work, and what's my stress like my resiliency. Coupled with that, you can, do your doctor's appointments and figure out where you're going with your body.
Yes, correct.
Sharpen
blood
mind,
tests, all that sort of stuff.
All of that stuff. So there's that piece. So that's I guess it's a diagnostic, see where you're at and where you want to go. We talked a little bit before about some of the mindset strategies around meditation, gratitude, and I call it labeling emotions. So what research has found is if you label your emotion, you're able to calm that down. I'm feeling frustrated, upset, tired. That actual thinking calms down the body, actually. You're acknowledging it. So there's those mental mindset strategies. The other part is the relationship. I touched on it earlier, but I want to explore it a little bit more. What we have found is people that connect more with others that are, in the similar industries, or have conversations and talk to people, not in a whinge fest, in a just sharing and exploring. They have found those individuals don't feel like the weight of the world is onto them. They're sharing that load. And they're not retreating into themselves, because what can happen is if you've got the mindset of a negative mindset and then you're retreating, you're only trying to solve it in your own head, you're in a very dangerous place, right? Yep. You're really thinking it's the world against you.
It's very lonely.
Very lonely. We need people to reach out to communicate, whether it be friends and family, or, you've set up a great system here.
With the coffee commune,
where you're connecting and learning and growing and developing. So you have to get out of the cafe every once in a while.
And we tell people that.
Because you get stuck. It's not a great thinking, but it's something that can be considered in cafe owners or whatever hospitality industry you're in. You can have this mentality of it being an open door prison, right? So even though the door's open, I can walk out any time, you stay stuck in your cafe, in your restaurant, in whatever
business
you're in. And that mentality is not helpful. Humans need to be connecting with other humans. You got to get out, have a chat, talk things through, realise, it's not that bad, or you get struck by a great idea, I can implement that.
Yeah, for sure.
So very important. So I think that relationship-based is
Yeah, and that's exactly what the Coffee Commune's about, right?
Yeah.
And as you know firsthand, it's about building that community to share your problems, and together we learn more, we do more, we talk more, we help you with buying power.
Yes.
You know, it's all of that for that reason. You know, what's that saying? They say a problem shared's a problem halved, and
That's
you
it.
know, and everyone's not immune. Nobody's immune to it, and that's what we try and do. But get involved, whether it's a Coffee Commune or whether it's you create your own round table, get amongst community, talk about things, because again, we come back to the beginning where we said you either stand still and do nothing, fixed mindset, or you say, hey, get on my bike and pedal, and I'm going to
pedal
have
in the right direction.
Right, in the right direction. Don't worry, we've all gone in the wrong direction sometimes.
That's okay.
And we fall off our bikes too, but you just get back on and keep going, right? So it's growth mindset that we're after. So, Kelly, tell us a little bit more about anyone wants to do. Of course, we've used you a lot of times. You've just been doing our emotional capital reports for the leadership team and the rest of it. If people want to engage more with what you're about or engage you for their services and all that stuff, how do they get a hold and know more about Kelly Maniatis?
Yeah, so easiest way is my website, leftfieldco.com.au. On there is all the list of services that I provide, because it's a number of things that I can help businesses with. And also you can look me up on LinkedIn. I have found that a lot of people reach me out that way, and I'm very responsive that way. So Kelly Maniatis. On LinkedIn, you can just follow me there and then engage with me that way.
And of course, we have Kelly regularly at the Coffee Commune presenting, whether it's a breakfast or a lunch or a workshop. So you can have a look at our website.
Hopefully soon we'll be launching my book.
Yes.
Around the leadership difference.
Well, I'm looking forward to the book. Kelly's in the middle of finishing a book called The Leadership Difference, and I've been able to have a look at it, and it looks fantastic. And again, it's functional, it's easy to understand, and it's helpful. You know, one of the things about books is I don't like talk fests and blah blahs. It's just like in meetings, as you know, everything's got to have a purpose and everything's got to have an outcome. Kelly, you've been amazing. You've been there and done that. That's why we chose you to be on the show and talk about mindset matters, how to become mentally stronger. I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And I hope you got some great nuggets out of that. You can see what we're all about at the Coffee Commune. It's all about accelerating your potential, being better tomorrow than you are today. And today we've been talking about mindset matters. So get those key takeaways, do the work, get on your bike, pedal hard, and you will accelerate your potential. Until next time, you've been listening to Phil Di Bella, and I'm the founder and managing director of the Coffee Commune. Well done.